What is happening, everyone? Welcome back to the Copyright Podcast and Pod and a Pint, episode 21. We are in the Monro. I'm usually in Shenanigans, but we are obviously joined by Rob Gutmann, so we're in the Monro on the delicious Guinness. You're not quite on the Guinness, but I'll cheers you anyway.
Yeah, I'm
on. Why not? How you doing
Abstinence
anyway?
Day. Yeah, I'm good. Nice to be here, mate.
Yeah. Now, nice to finally meet you, because it's been in the works for a while, so glad to...
Our paths haven't crossed, have they?
Yeah, it's one of them.
The tour thing.
Yeah, so it's one of them. But I'm sure I'll see it on a show.
Yeah, definitely.
In the near
You've
future.
got to come on one of my transfer gutter shows, definitely.
Yeah. Well, that's what we're going to talk about. So this is good.
That's
good
my
prep.
field.
Yeah. So you can field me on this and see how good I am on transfers. But as we always do, opening question. So as you're in the pub spheres, I just thought this would be a good one for you. What's the best pub you've ever been in?
Gonna be a recency bias one because it's fresh in the mind. Probably went in it first, not that fresh, but probably went in it first 4 or 5 years ago. The Princess Louise in Holborn in London. Amazing tiled interior, probably heavily listed, preserved, you can't touch it.
Yeah.
I think it's what they call a Sam Smith's pub. I don't know if you're aware of that group.
Yeah.
It's a Sam Smith's pub, so you're meant to not, there are signs on the wall saying you can't swear or use your mobile phone, but it's just a beautiful interior. It's great.
Yeah, oh nice. Have you got a favourite in Liverpool? Obviously you've got quite a few.
I mean, yes, so I can't pick one of my own. Let's be clear, that would be weird and conceited. I've always said, when anyone's ever asked me this, and it's still true, Peter Cavanagh's.
Yeah, great pub.
Just amazing. Yeah. Love everything about it.
Yeah, it's just one of them, just a vibe, isn't it? Just one of them. You walk in and you just feel, I don't know.
I think, you know what's amazing? It's very, again, like the Princess Louise, a totally different type to the Princess Louise, but people walk into those pubs, if they're not truly pub people, they go, there's probably loads of these around. There aren't.
Yeah, that's it.
This is why I've sort of started on my pub mission in terms of restoring them and reintroducing them, because these really authentic, great old world pubs are very, very rare now in Britain. I had a lovely weekend with friends in Cardiff about 2 years ago, and I thought, I can't wait to go to Cardiff. I haven't been for years. I'll go and look at all their old boozers.
Yeah.
I bet some Cardiff people might criticise this. I didn't find any. None. There's lots of old boozers that have been remodelled. A lot of them are very Weatherspoony now, but not authentically as they should have been, and that's a tragedy.
Yeah. Would you say that Cavanagh's then kind of influenced you a little bit in terms of your like stylistics and stuff? Yeah,
I mean, people. I mean, I've heard cynics go, if I do another pub, they go, you're going to do another pub, they all look the same. And I think, no, they don't. There's not infinite morphs of pub, and they obviously look similar in that they're obviously old and fusty, and there's a lot of wood and there's a lot of brownness, and the architecture and the furniture should look like it comes from 100 odd years ago. Yeah. But within that scope, there's still about 6, 7, 8 different morphs of pub. Yeah, and Cavanagh's and Princess Louise, for example, are a different type of pub as you could imagine, right? I mean, you know my pubs a little bit. We're in the Monro. Yeah. It's nothing like St Peter's. It's nothing like the Vines, really, is it? So,
No, there's an element of you through it because we know that you own them. But there's still elements of obviously the character of the pub and the layout and all that type of thing. Exactly. That feeds into the vibe, doesn't it? But,
of course it does.
But then we could talk about pubs all day, but let's talk about Liverpool a little bit. We're going to get to transfers in a sec, but there is some news we can talk about, fresh news in terms of actual footy getting played. So it was confirmed today that Liverpool will kick off the pre-season against Preston on the 13th of July at Deepdale, and that is I've done quick maths on my way in, 38 days. That doesn't seem long.
Since we last kicked a ball?
Until our next game. From today until that game, 38 days.
I'm thinking purely only about Florian Wirtz. Am I going to see Florian Wirtz? Sorry, keep the camera. I'm going to see Florian Wirtz play in 38 days' time. That is the most important thing in my life right now. Yeah. There's a lot of people really cynical about pre-season friendlies. Yeah. In fact, most people I seem to have done shows at the Anfield out with are cynical about even my lad, my elder boy Danny, goes, I'm not watching pre-season games, they're shit. What's the point? It's not real football. I mean, I watch every minute of pre-season.
Yeah, same.
But they're extra better when you've got new signings. I mean, I remember the pre-season when we'd signed Torres. Yeah. I was so excited to watch us play some shit teams out in Japan or something. I'll never forget, I'm digressing, but we were scheduled to play, I think it was something like either a Japanese 11 or Portsmouth away, somewhere in the Far East. Yeah. It was his first pre-season. And the morning of the match, it was announced that Torres couldn't play because some sort of international clearance hadn't come through.
Yeah.
I don't think I've been as disappointed as an adult as anything. It was gutting.
Yeah.
So sort that one out, LFC, if we get him. But yeah, I mean that friendly. If we've got Kirkes, if we've got Frimpong, if we've got Wirtz, maybe we're lucky another one. We get to see them all playing some pre-season game, even for 45 minutes. That's stuff of dreams.
Yes, I mean, it's exciting, isn't it? I mean, you can only hold so much weight for. I remember not so long ago, Andre Voronin looked like Pele in pre-season. Remember that? That was a period in our lives that we had to go through.
That was the summer of Torres, wasn't it?
I think so. Yeah. And Voronin was just scoring goals for fun, and we were like, oh, we've signed some. This fella looks good here. And just turned to shit. But obviously, we do a bit more due diligence now these days with transfers.
He was a bit one of them, when you sign that player in the summer, like Torres, and if we get Wirtz, like I just cannot get excited about Kirkes. Like what I was about 3 months ago, we're going to sign Kirkes. I really rate him, think he's great. Even Frimpong, I only got to enjoy Frimpong for about 3 days before the Wirtz rumours kicked in. Yeah. So in a way, Voronin was just a bonus ball. Dan, who else did we sign that summer? Was it Lucas that summer?
It might have been actually.
I think it might have been. Or Benayoun, we got a few in quietly. I think we got Benayoun. They were all interesting, those lot, but they were all nothing compared to all eyes on Fernando.
Yeah, that's
and hopefully all eyes on Florian.
Yeah, well, hopefully Wirtz has, if he comes in, that's a similar impact to what Fernando Torres did, because he was absolutely unbelievable. But like we said, you have a show on the Anfield Wrap called the Gutter Show, which is obviously you talking about transfers, so I'm sure you're sick to death about it, but we're going to have to do it anyway. Because I had Dave Lynch on the last episode, and we talked about an hour for about all the different variables, transfers, Elliot, Nunes, Diaz, blah, 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 a lot of them. And then we talked about like incoming as well. But like you just said, Frimpong, we got him over the line. Same day Trent leaves, which was, I thought, very savvy from the club in terms of one goes out, we give the fans something to celebrate straight away. But I think the Wirtz stuff, like you said, is the most exciting, because the whole Instagram post, everyone just lost their mind over that. And then was his name Lewis Steele? He asked him a question yesterday, and he gave him a little nod saying, you're waiting to come, you're looking forward to come to Liverpool, and he gave him like a little nod. Whether he was just saying, hello, or...
I did half an hour on this on the Anfield Wrap this morning, half an hour, I shit you not, right?
Off you go then.
Well, I likened it to... I'm quite interested in the Kennedy assassination. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I find it fascinating. And there's a famous film called the Zapruder film. I don't know if you're aware of it. It's the only footage of the assassination, and it's been examined more than... It's only about seconds long. 8 seconds, 10 seconds. It's been examined more than any other film in history. Apart from until yesterday, until Lewis Steele got that footage of Florian Wirtz turning and give it a slight wink, mild thumbs up even. I concluded, and I'm the first to want to believe anything in this, optimistic in this sphere, that he only hears his name. Because Lewis says, are you excited about Liverpool, Florian? But he semi-mumbles the first bit. I think Florian hears his name, turns around and goes...
Just gives him a little nod.
So I think we read more into that post you're referring to, the Instagram one about McAllister's number, wasn't it?
Well, because he kind of said, don't believe the press, I'm not interested in the 10 number, because it was the rumblings about it only.
I think Florian Pettenberg in Germany put out a story that Florian really was demanding almost the number 10 show, which sounded a bit heavy going, for if someone's not even through the door. So he's quick to slap that down, which you think, okay, fair enough. Lewis Steele, a piece itself. Did you actually read his stuff about? Because he was in Germany last night, obviously, and he said, I spoke to everyone who's ever worked with Florian Wirtz. And he said a number of those around the player were going, this is 99% done. Well, that's the interesting stuff there, more than the footage.
Well, when I spoke to Dave Lynch, he kind of said the same thing, that the player is... When the player's that set on it, then it's going to take something. I think Dave's words were it'll take something like really unexpected for it to not to go through. But once bitten, twice shy, as they say. We've had some of these in the past where we have all this interest. That was the Fickiers and all the other ones who we think it's going to happen and it doesn't. So I'm not going to believe it till it actually happens. But in terms of like his quality and what he can provide, what are your thoughts on that? Because he looks sensational, doesn't he?
Yeah, I mean, I've watched the huge shoots,
the compilations
endlessly. It's difficult really with YouTube now because we're so used to it, and you get the good bit. So as long as a lad scored more than 10 goals that they can put in a 5-6 minute segment, they're always going to look decent because every time someone strikes the ball and hits the back of the net, it's good. So you kind of have to sort of use those to try and understand the player stylistically, but go more off what people say who've watched him. And I've read every interview I can find about, or assessment, or tactical, whatever. And people are very clear in Germany that he's world top 5 stroke top 10, and he's a bit older than Lamine Yamal, but he's talked about in the same breath, and you think that's really exciting. Look, the fee tells its own story, doesn't it? Clubs don't get to demand and get paid best part of 130 to 150 million euros unless they've got something really special on their hands. I'm in no doubt we're buying, well, certainly our motive in buying him is to buy our new best player. Now, you can never guarantee it works out like that. He, to me, is the primary Salah succession plan, not in terms of who plays right side, but who's the fulcrum of our team, who's the player we're going to look for every time you're on the ball in midfield or wherever.
I think I likened it a little bit to when that era when we had Coutinho, because he was the main guy. He was on the left, cutting into the central areas, having shots, creating stuff. Similar stature, dribbling ability. Good passing. I think similar styles, I guess. But in terms of it, like you said, his age, if you can get him at this stage, bear in mind we only spent 10 million last summer. And we just won the Premier League, so it's one of them that we have to factor in that we didn't spend much last year, but to go and spend this much and make obviously Frimpong over the line, and there's Kirkes, which we're going to talk about in a sec, but to go for Vert, who's hefty price, but he's someone that, like you said, succession planning for when Salah does probably go in 2 more years, then he's like maybe 23, 24 at that point. It's perfect for him to then carry the mantle, if you like, isn't it?
And I think people can get carried away by the price because it sounds like a lot of dough, and of course it is a lot of dough in absolute terms by anyone's standards. But Paul Pogba went for £90 million, was it? About 5-6 years ago? Look at the inflation in the transfer market. We can't say with the one hand, we hope we get 65 million for Darwin Núñez or 45 million for Harvey Elliott if he goes, or the club demands no less than 80 million for, say, Luis Diaz, who's been linked away. You can't have those figures bandied around and think, well, those are players you can live without. What do you think the ones you really want are going to cost? They have to be that. And also, I think we live in a world now where most of the journalists quote in euros. We do deal in pounds. So, I mean, let's say the fee. Let's pick a halfway house between Liverpool and Leverkusen's reported demands and offer. So that pictured about 140 million euros. You take that off, that'd be about maybe just short of 120 million pounds. That's the package, right? So that could easily be 100 plus 20 add-ons. It's a big sum, but it's not the 200 million that was paid for Neymar. At the time Coutinho moved, or 6 months before then. It's reasonable, I think, for the potential of the player. It's another one of those. It's not that long ago. Well, it isn't that long ago. We paid 75 million for Virgil van Dijk, pounds, which today would be 90 million euros. No. People now go, twice would have been fair, and they'd be right. I hope we come to say that about Florian Wirtz.
I think because of the size of the fee as well. It's not Liverpool-like. I think that's what people are maybe getting a bit scared of, because we're used to being very eco-friendly, if you like, in terms of like making sure we buy players at a good age, not hit the sweet spot yet, but hopefully they do that at the club. But we get them for a lesser fee and we build them into what they are. So this is maybe a change from what we're used to, which is maybe why the nerves creeping a little bit. But in terms of Liverpool putting down a statement to go and get Frimpong, Vert, and then hopefully Kirkes straight after, you finish it, you're sorting out your problem areas, and you're also getting like a little gem in the areas where you need to create stuff.
This is the issue, really. It's a perception shift for us, isn't it? It's a little bit surreal because what's the most Liverpool ever spent in a summer before? Gross stroke net. I think it's the summer of Alisson, isn't it? We buy him for 65 or 60-ish. Salah comes in that summer too. No, Salah come the year before. Oxlade-Chamberlain come the year before. So who do we buy? I think Fabinho, because it's half. No, it's not Fabinho even. So who the hell else? Keita comes in.
I think Keita comes in that summer as well.
I think that's about it, because we bought Fabinho the year before.
But even still, if it's Alisson and Keita, that's 100 mil, isn't it?
Yes.
With them two.
Yeah, that's okay. So it's that amount of money, and we probably sold a few. I don't know, Coutinho had gone 6 months earlier. But if you think about it this summer, if what we're hearing is believable, I think it is. So say we get Wirtz in for £110 million, and we got Frimpong 30 odd, that's 140, Kirkus 45, that's 185.
Yeah.
Now, if we want to buy a striker, we don't want to buy a reserve striker. So you're not getting one of them for less than 75.
Yeah.
So suddenly you're up to what numbers are we at? 270, say. Then you're in the realm of, well, what if, do we need a centre half still? What if Quansah goes? So going north of 300 million seems possible. And that's a bit of a mindfuck, I think, for us. Because we just said 100's probably the most since, okay, we spent 70 or 80 million on Darwin one summer, but it's so far in excess of what we've been used to. But I think where the club are being smart and not losing their mind, or not becoming, different people than they've always been. And by the club, I mean not just the boys in Boston, I mean the Michael Edwardses of this world, who are quite cautious, canny, conservative operators.
Yeah.
Why I think they think, why shouldn't we do this, is because of the value of the assets they can sell. I used some reference talk to David about that, David Lynch about it.
Yeah.
I just said, well, if you can get 60 odd for Darwin Núñez, if you get 45 million for one or two of Quansah or Elliott, say both for argument's sake, it's 90, what are we on there? 155 already. That's before you factor in Kelleher, Ben Doak, maybe Chiesa or Diogo Jota goes. I'm sure I'm missing somebody else obvious out. Before you know it, we're selling over 200 million.
Yeah.
It's not far-fetched. So 300 out, 200 in, 100 net. In this day and age, and having not done it for two odd years, I don't think it's implausible or extravagant. Other clubs fans of other clubs, the banter merchants will go, look at Liverpool trying to rebuy the title because they couldn't believe their luck. That's what the narrative will be.
Definitely.
But fucking hell, how long ago was it Arsenal decided to try and buy the title? Declan, 105, Havertz, 65, Jurriën Timber, was it 35 or 40? So they dropped 200 million without selling any big hitters.
Definitely.
2 years ago to put them to be the team that they aren't yet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, I had a little look on the net spend, because obviously it's a genuine thing, but it's kind of like it's a bat to beat people with sometimes, because people just think, oh, you always talk about net spend. But like you said, if we do those deals you've just said in those areas, if we spend maybe 100 net, I think since 2015, I think we're in like the 350 million in terms of net spend.
Since 2015, so in 10 years?
Since 10 years. I think Man United are on like 857 or a bit more.
So Chelsea and City over $1 billion.
Over $1 billion. So they're 500 more than us, and they're like dregs of the league now, which is, you should be. I saw a quote from Gerrard, and I quite like the analogy. It was like, you should fix the roof while the sun's shining.
Yeah.
And that's something that Liverpool should be doing. And at certain areas in the past, maybe you can criticise the owners in terms of, we could have done that at certain stages in the past where we had summers where maybe a bit quiet. You could have done the stuff there, but then you have to factor in, does it affect the harmony of the squad and all that stuff? There's loads of stuff that comes into it, but I think this is the right time for Liverpool to, like you say, cash in on certain people, which we have to talk about them. So the likes of Núñez, and so there's Núñez, linked away, there's Diaz, Jota, Elliott. I think the difficulty with, we can't let all of them go.
No.
Because again, harmony comes into it. You can't let too much of a thing is sometimes you can't do too much of it at the same time, basically, because it'll affect everything, and you can have a slow start to the season because of it. So we need to be, again, like you said, Michael Edwards and Richard Hughes are canny fellas, so we need to have the canny nature of those, and time those well as well, don't we?
Yeah, I think once we get, and touch wood that happens, we get Wirtz and Kirkus added to Frimpong, I'm not saying they'll pause, but I think they will have to consider, are they sure who's going before they go large. It's all very well saying we've all seen enough of Darwin, thank you, but we need to get him out and the money in. We can't be dropping, let's just pick a name, 80 million or 75 million on Ekitike and Darwin still being in the squad, and we're not having had 60 odd for him come August thing.
Definitely.
So, and also, quite frankly, if you buy the expensive striker, for example, for 75 million, everyone knows that you're desperate to get rid of Darwin Núñez now. Then they'll lowball you. So it's that very tricky balancing act. I mean, people are going, we need a centre half, and I go, yeah, but who? I mean, people go, let's sell Quansah, you get 45 million for Quansah or something like that. I go, yeah, but until you're sure, you can't sell Quansah.
Yeah.
I think you can probably, the ones you can be safe with, okay, Kelleher's out the door virtually, isn't he been announced? I think, or nearly announced.
Yeah, he's gone, yeah.
Right, he's gone, we know Trent's gone. If we get Kirkes in, we don't have to sweat. Kostas will go, and he's not going to fetch a lot anyway. I think if the day Wirtz comes through the door, I think Harvey Elliott's speaking to his dad and his agent and going, you know, we said it was likely I'm definitely going now, because he plays in my position nearest damn it. And I wasn't getting a game last season.
Yeah.
So those sort of players, I think you can say will go. What have I picked there? 4 or 5.
Yeah.
But the next 4 or 5, one, you've got to be sure you've got replacements, and two, as you say, it's about, we have won the league here. Do you want to broke what was fixed? You know. But then again, I think what's different though, in terms of why we can consider more outs, is because Arne Slot's approach, which was not exactly a 1 to 11 man, but he was quite a 1 to 14, 15 man.
Yeah.
Not the same as Jurgen, who liked to see the squad all playing in rhythm. So what that's led, the knock-on with Arne's approach is we've got 4 or 5 lads who are genuinely quite unhappy with their minutes, happy to be champions, not going to kick up a fuss, but they really are looking at their agents. I mean, they're all saying, let's put it this way, this can't happen again. Harvey, you know, he'd die for Liverpool, would love to be here for life, but he got 2 Premier League starts. The writing's on the wall and he knows it. So does Darwin, you know, and others.
Yeah, well, again, the Diaz thing is quite interesting as well, though, because the piece kind of said, the recent piece about him just said that we're not going to give him a new contract, but we're not looking to sell. But that's basically, read between the lines, is if we get enough money, he's going to be going, isn't he? Because he's 28 now, he's going to be 29 in Jan. He's not getting any younger, but if we can keep him around, if we don't get a bid big enough, it's not the end of the world, because he proved how good he was last year, even in the left areas, even when he was up as a false 9, he proved last season just how good he is. So we can keep him around. Again, I'd come back to the harmony and keeping players in if they want to stay. I think Diaz done an interview, might have been last night or this morning, with Columbia, saying he's his agent's talking to other clubs because it is the transfer window's open. But he's happy if Liverpool want to keep him for 2 more years. So it's kind of one of them, isn't it? We're in a really good position. We've just won the league, but we need to, I guess, be clever with how and when we move players on and when we bring them in, don't we?
I think Diaz's situation is fascinating, and there's an interesting game of poker breaking out between Diaz and Liverpool. I mean, I think personally, I'm a massive fan. I thought he had a great season, a brilliant season, and I thought he'd been harshly criticised the season before, which I thought was mental really, but it was what it was. But whatever his critics thought of him at the end of 23-24, I think a fair few have been won round by the end of last season. Simply looking at the goal numbers and assist numbers, we're up that bit more, but I think what the rest of his game is so important to Liverpool. So for me, I'd keep him all day long. I mean, the manager picked him every single time he could, albeit in 2 positions. I think you probably find a small divergence of view between the sporting direction team and Richard Hughes and Michael Edwards and the manager, whereas I think the manager and Richard Hughes are being touch tight all the time in their behind the scenes discussions.
Definitely.
I think you ask Arne Slot privately, I think he'd say, I hope the bids don't come in for him. So I'd love him to do a new contract, but if he's not going to do a new, the club don't want to do that, understand that point of view. I just want to know I've got him to go again with next season. Not disrupting something, but I love the idea of him and Salah and a new striker with Wirtz behind. Froth at the mouth of that stuff. Yeah. I think the club are saying that wouldn't be the end of it. That's fine. But if the Saudis are nuts enough, quite frankly, to overpay, well, I'd actually think it's arguable it's overpay, but pay the money we want at 85 million, we'd deal on that. But what they don't know is with the player deal on that. He wants to get weighed in, he feels he's underpaid, but does he want to semi-retire himself and go to Saudi? And I think the fact that none of these sort of things will align will lead to the player staying at least another year, well, probably another year, because I think things are very different next summer. In that Liverpool, with 1 year to go, they can't quite take the piss on the price. So the player's got more power with a year to go. But I think we might get to see him 1 more year. I think that's what you're saying too. I hope so.
I hope so, because I agree. I thought he was tremendous, and obviously he had few injuries like years before. The injury against Arsenal didn't help him at all, and then obviously the stuff with his dad, which was just absolutely horrific. So it did take him a bit of time to get back in the right frame, but once he was in there, I thought he was class. Let's talk just generally then, like about this. Obviously, I mentioned before the season's 30. The pre-season's 38 days away, and we're talking about let's talk about how Liverpool might settle down, because we know that Mamardashvili is coming in, Kelleher's gone, so it's going to be Alisson and Mamardashvili fighting it out for number one. What we're probably looking at is if it's Frimpong, Van Dijk, Konate, Kerkez, Gravenberch.
This is where it gets.
This is where it gets tricky. What do you think midfield-wise and then attacking-wise?
You see, this is where the Wirtz thing is extra fascinating. Beyond the fact that he's just a potentially great player for us, is he in that middle three block or that front three block? Yeah. And we can get carried away with is it 4-2-3-1s or 4-4-2 diamonds that we're going to play in. Broadly speaking, there's three lads who consider themselves midfield players and three lads who consider themselves forwards. Yeah. And those front three expect to deliver more goals than three behind them. Now, researching Wirtz, he's very often in the front three, like on the left of a front three, tucked in, like Coutinho was really for us. Yeah. So does he but that's where Diaz and Gakpo play. Yeah. And Slot you tend to think of as more of a winger man rather than a tucked in Coutinho type forward. So then people are going, well, no, he's going to play in Soboslai's, what people call a 10 role. I don't think that's a 10. You can call it an 8-10 to me. It's an attacking midfield role. Does he play there? If he plays there, is it Dom who loses his place? Well, I think if it is there, yes, initially. But then does Dom share games with McAllister and Gravenberch and indeed Wirtz himself? Does he almost fulfil the Curtis Jones role? Is he knocked down a notch, or is he sharing with McAllister? Yeah. McAllister's an interesting case in point. Obviously, everyone rates him and he's class, but he struggled with an injury that suggests we might have overplayed him. Bit of a minor one. Isn't playing for Argentina. Didn't play the end of the season. His minutes might get managed a bit more. Yeah. People have gone, Wirtz could get moved around the team. I'm just not convinced of that, because I think he's, in all the reports he goes, Slot convinced him he's got a definite role for him, so that tends to me think he's going there, point his finger on the pitch, that's where you're going to be, albeit he's mobile, but I just don't know.
It's a tricky one, isn't it? Because I think there's a case you could play him as a 9 and you could do what we did in the Firmino days, where Firmino, you drop him in and you let Salah and Nunes go into those areas, but I agree, he's better off the left, coming into those central areas. I think that kind of goes hand in hand with the full-back signings as well, because we get him Frimpong and Kerkez up in those areas. It allows Wirtz to come in off the left into those areas where it's not going to be, obviously we're going to have those overlapping players, so you can come inside and then there's a load of players where he can feed into little corners and whip balls into the box like we saw him do last night for Germany. So it's options though, isn't it? It's options, but like you said, probably been it would probably be harder for Slot to say, I want you, but we don't know where we're going to play you yet. It's more likely that he says, I want you here, and we're going to build essentially the team around you in that region. That's more likely, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, I think so. I think we'll definitely build a team around him. We have to. Salah's our man. We built around Salah, but I think we're going to see a shift of that axis of built around. Just as we're talking, it makes me think. Do you remember? Are you old enough to remember the Christmas tree formation? Right, Terry Venables, I think, called it that in Euro 96. Now that you don't see that talked about, but it's a 4 at the back, it's a 3 in a line in midfield with 2 10s behind the striker, right? You could argue that given it advancing in years, you tuck him in 5 yards inside, you tuck Florian Wirtz, and he played them both as double 10s behind the striker.
And you have Frimpong and bombing on as the wingers essentially.
And then you've got these 3 midfielders who are giving you, although you expect 1 or 2 of them to join in attacks when you're in possession, they can drop in and form a triangular steel in front of your centre halves to protect yourself from counter-attacks. I don't know. It's fascinating.
Yeah, well, there's plenty of. Food for thought for Arne Slot, but we've saw essentially with a Klopp team plus Chiesa, he's went and done the best thing you can do, win the Premier League. So it's interesting because this is his first transfer window essentially, to see what Slot wants in a player, what he wants, what Liverpool, the next versions of Liverpool are going to be, and obviously the players that we'll link with gives us a bit of an indication of what he wants. But it's exciting, isn't it? That's the main thing.
It is very much that.
Very exciting.
I mean, the interesting thing, if you stop and think about the types of names they're being linked with, they're not players for a specific manager. They're actually a bit as if a Madrid football director or PSG football director was doing the buying, which kind of what is going on.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he's not in synchronicity with a manager here, but you don't have to persuade a manager about style when you say we could get Florian Wirtz, you know. You didn't require Arne Slot to scout him as his special one, you know. I'll tell you, I've scouted Lamine Yamal. He'll fit in my system, you know. I mean, and also, apart from our boy Trent, Frimpong was probably the next best right back in Europe. Well, him and Hakimi. If you're talking about the best handful of right backs, Frimpong would have been in the conversation. So it doesn't really style. It's just good. Kirk is one of the best young attacking left backs coming through. So yes, of course they're going to fit in with how the manager wants to play, but he'll play how good players will play. I believe.
Yeah, definitely. It's one of them. It's not. I see what you mean. It's not like we're scouting these players and then plucking them out of thin air.
No.
It's more like it's a market opportunity as well, especially for Frimpong, like age and profile and fee and everything, which has just been perfect. So hopefully we'll probably see him in that Preston game, so we'll see what he's made of, and hopefully he's joined by Florian Wirtz and Milos Kerkez and a load of others. But Rob, we'll leave it there. Nice one for jumping on. That was episode 21 of Pod and a Pint. I've enjoyed my Guinness. I mean, you've not had one, but you've had a little cup of tea.
It looks like you squinted to Guinness.
It's
I like Pod and a Pint. Nice alliteration there.
Yeah, it's good. But nice one to Rob. Nice one everyone for watching or listening. And we'll see you on the next one. Ta-ra.